Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1 for this, our reactions to qualifying for the Japanese Grand Prix. And what an interesting qualifying this was. Lots of stories throughout the qualifying session. We'll get into all that and more in just one moment. Remember to like and subscribe, and a huge shout out to the members: Dakota, The Joyous James, Ryan Myers, Cinnamon Strudel, Michael Johnson, F, and Edam on Sandwiches. If you want to become a member, click the links in the description down below on the Patreon and on the YouTube. But let's get into this with Q1, the perfect place to start. Because Q1 starts and Lewis Hamilton goes out on medium tyres. This is something we've seen a few times now, not just from Ferrari, but Mercedes have tried it as well. I think it's just instead of running two sets of soft in the first section of qualifying, they do a banker lap on a medium, see where they are, and then do the second lap on a soft. You're going to do 2 laps anyway, save a set of soft tyres. That's what Lewis Hamilton does from there. Yuki Tsunoda's day starts quite well. He went third fastest on his first fast lap. Oscar Piastri went top by 0.09 from Lando Norris. George Russell splits the two McLarens. This very much looked like it was going to be the narrative of qualifying. Even from FP2 yesterday, it looked like it was going to be a story of the McLarens are the two fastest cars, but George Russell can get there every now and again. And it looked like it was a repeat of that into Q1. By the end of the session, not so true. Isaac Hadjar has had a really interesting day today. So he had an issue in FP3, and that issue continued into qualifying, and it was an issue surrounding his seatbelts. Initially, it started like his seatbelts were just undone. We saw him take his hand off the steering wheel at one point to try and fix it. But when we see the camera that's behind the steering wheel that looks at the driver's helmet, looks at the driver's face, we saw with his visor up, looked like he was quite in pain, considerably really, as they were tightening up the seatbelts. There was a quite serious issue there, and he was saying on the radio, he was incredibly apologetic over the radio, saying how sorry he was and how much he couldn't focus. It sounds like there was a serious issue with those seatbelts, which was causing him to be in pain. Hopefully they can fix that between now and tomorrow, because despite this, he did have a good session. Towards the end of Q1, Kimi Antonelli was in a bit of trouble. He was in the drop zone with 2 minutes to go. He did get out of there and continued throughout the session, but Antonelli not necessarily showing the pace that we would expect at this point of the weekend. As we finish Q1, though, here is our bottom 5. So, in 20th place is Lance Stroll. 19th is Jack Doohan, coming back from that awful crash yesterday, but only good enough for 19th place. Esteban Ocon is in 18th, which at first you think a Haas in 18th, not that bad. When you see where his teammate ends up finishing, that's quite disappointing from Esteban Ocon. Bortolesso is in 17th. Nico Hülkenberg is in 16th place. Hülkenberg just being knocked out of Q1 there. The person who beat him at the end was none other than Liam Lawson. His first time getting out of Q1 this year, his first time in the Racing Bulls this year. But it was very, very close. Liam Lawson was in 15th place, made it out of Q1 by 0.016. So a very close escape for Liam Lawson through Q1. Into Q2, though, and we get our first grass fire of qualifying. We saw it happen multiple times throughout all 3 practice sessions. I don't forget, did it happen in FP1? I can't remember, but definitely in FP2 and FP3. The grass around the track is incredibly dry, and when those sparks come from the underside of the cars and they hit the grass, it lights it up. Hopefully, we won't see it as much tomorrow, because they are expecting some rain to hit the track either before, during, or after, or all 3 of the race tomorrow. So the grass should be a bit wetter tomorrow, so I don't expect it to be an issue for the race. But it did affect Q2 here, a red flag. Thankfully, the red flag didn't seem to really affect anyone, because everyone had set their first initial lap, and it seemed like the majority of the grid were on an in-lap, so no one really getting messed over by the red flag at this point. But as Q2 ends, here is our first big headline of the weekend. Because in 15th place is Yuki Tsunoda, in 14th place, Liam Lawson. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Let me just run through the remainder of the guys knocked out of Q2. Fernando Alonso is 13th. Carlos Sainz is 12th. Pierre Gasly is 11th place. Gasly missing out on Q3 by 0.03. Carlos Sainz, though, will probably start the race a lot lower than 12th because he impeded Lewis Hamilton. On Hamilton's final lap, he went into the first corner, and Sainz just sat in the middle of the corner and slowed down. Hamilton had to go off the track to avoid him. There's no doubt in my mind that is an impeding movement there. David Croft, by the way, commentary this weekend is David Croft and Jacques Villeneuve, and I would rather hear two strangled cats do commentary than those two, because, my God, they're both dreadful. But David Croft was like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter, really, because Lewis Hamilton got through, Carlos Sainz didn't. No, impeding is impeding, and that was impeding. It doesn't matter the fact that one got through and one didn't. Lewis Hamilton was starting a fast lap, and he couldn't do it because Carlos Sainz parked his car in turn one. So I reckon Sainz will get a penalty for that, probably a free-place grid penalty. But let's talk about the big story of Q2, which is Lawson and Tsunoda, which is the big story of this entire weekend up until this point. Because, of course, Liam Lawson was in the Red Bull, Yuki Tsunoda was in the Racing Bulls. After 2 races, they've decided to swap them round. So Yuki Tsunoda's first weekend in the Red Bull, and look what's happened here. For the 3rd time this year, at only the 3rd race this year, the second Red Bull car has been beaten in qualifying by both Racing Bulls cars. Now, to give Tsunoda his credit, he got it out of Q1, which Lawson was not able to do when he was in the Red Bull. But again, here we have Liam Lawson in 14th, Yuki Tsunoda in 15th, again pointing to the thing that we've been saying this entire time. The Red Bull is a difficult car to drive. Lawson, still not a great qualifying, if we're being perfectly honest. Isaac Hadjar, who was in massive pain, and I don't think has driven here before, unless I'm wrong on that. But Hadjar massively outperformed Lawson, there's no doubt about that. Hadjar has got those additional races of experience over Lawson in this car, so there's variables all over the place, but there's no way around it. Hadjar was the better of the two this weekend. But again, we see the second Red Bull driver struggling. And if we want to talk about the difference between Ocon and Behrman, let's talk about the difference between Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen. Because when you look at the end of this session, Max Verstappen is the biggest hero in the F1 world. Yuki Tsunoda struggling here again. And I'm not going to blame Yuki. I'm not going to say it's Yuki's fault, because we all know at this point it is not Yuki's fault. My goodness, if you do not know by this point that a car is hard to drive, you haven't been paying attention. But again, it's just another sign pointing to the big other sign that's pointing to a big other sign that's pointing to an LED screen lit up in the night sky that says this Red Bull is a hard car to drive. Hopefully Yuki Tsunoda can turn this round tomorrow. Hopefully he can get some points on the board. But as we sit here right now, every single qualifying session we've had this year, the second Red Bull has been beaten by the 2 cars from the little sister team. And that is not good. Right, Q3. This was everyone's first laps of the qualifying. So after everyone's first lap, this is our top 10. Antonelli was 10th, Albon was 9th, Behrman 8th, Hadjar 7th, Hamilton 6th, Lando Norris in a surprising 5th, George Russell 4th, Leclerc in 3rd, Verstappen 2nd, Oscar Piastri on provisional pole. But when everyone's set their second fast times, here is the top 10 that we have for tomorrow's race. Ollie Behrman, for the first time ever, making it into Q3 in the Haas, he is in 10th. Alexander Albon, a very good lap for him, puts him 9th. Lewis Hamilton will be a bit disappointed in 8th. Isaac Hadjar will be very happy with 7th. Kimi Antonelli was a little bit off the pace of his teammate, but still sits 6th. George Russell made a lot of mistakes into his final lap. He is in 5th place as of right now. But yeah, George Russell looked good all weekend thus far, But in Q3, made mistake after mistake after mistake. Only 5th place for him. Charles Leclerc will be happy in 4th place. Oscar Piastri, who was on provisional pole, will now start in 3rd. Made a big mistake into turn 2 on his final lap, lost all pace there. Shockingly, P2 is Lando Norris. His first lap was dreadful. He pulled it back in the second lap, but it was not good enough to take pole because for the Japanese Grand Prix, it will be Max Verstappen on pole position. My goodness, what a lap this was. Out of absolutely nowhere, Max Verstappen comes along and puts it on pole position, proving yet again why he is one of the greatest of all time to do that lap there. And you can tell not only how good it was, but how much it means to him. Because we've seen Max Verstappen win a lot. We've seen Max Verstappen take pole position a lot. And a lot of the time you get the message, Max has pole position, he goes, alright, yeah, let's go. Not this weekend. He was told he was on pole position, and you can hear it over the radio how happy he was. Goes to show how much that lap meant to him. GP, quote, that is insane. The lap that Max Verstappen pulled out from there. What a lap that was. Nobody was expecting that at the start of this weekend, but he's gone and done it. Max Verstappen, pole position for tomorrow's race. Now, the big question is, can he convert that into a win? And anything can happen in Formula 1. He's not in the fastest car by quite some margin. The McLaren has been consistently like 3 to 4 tenths quicker than everybody else all weekend to this point. Can he fight them off tomorrow? I don't know. But with a little bit of rain in the air, anything can happen in Suzuka, and we'll be here to talk about all of it tomorrow. We're building up for what should be a very, very exciting race. Max Verstappen on pole, the 2 McLaren drivers behind him. You've got Russell in 5th, who has got some pace there as well. What will happen with Antonelli? Are the Ferraris in contention for the podium places, or even a win if something mad was to happen from there? You've got the likes of Hajar, Behrman, who are in interesting positions as well, as is Albon for points there. And then the big talking point will continue to be Lawson and Tsunoda, who will finish ahead in the race tomorrow. We are building to what should be a very, very fun Sunday. I will see you then. Until next time, though, have a good one. I'll see you later. Goodbye.